നമസ്കാരം. 1 in Million-ലേക്ക് സ്വാഗതം. അമൃത സിവിൽ സർവീസ് അക്കാഡമിയും അമൃത ടിവിയും ചേർന്ന് നടത്തുന്ന UPSC മോഡൽ മോക്ക് ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂ ആണ് 1 in Million എന്ന ഈ പ്രോഗ്രാം. സിവിൽ സർവീസ് മെയിൻസ് എക്സാം കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂവിലേക്ക് സെലക്ട് ചെയ്യപ്പെട്ട ഒരുപാട് കാൻഡിഡേറ്റ്സ് ആണ് ഈ പ്രോഗ്രാമിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കുന്നത്. അവർക്കെല്ലാവർക്കും ആശംസകൾ നേർന്നുകൊണ്ട് once again welcome to 1 in Million. UPSC മോഡൽ ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂ പ്രോഗ്രാമായ 1 in Million-ലെ ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂ പാനൽ മെമ്പേഴ്സ് ഇവരൊക്കെയാണ്. വിനയ് ശങ്കർ IAS, സെക്രട്ടറി ടു ഗവൺമെൻറ് ഓഫ് ഇന്ത്യ, റിട്ടയർഡ് IAS ഓഫീസർ ഫ്രം മധ്യപ്രദേശ് കാഡർ. ഡോക്ടർ B. അശോക് IAS, സെക്രട്ടറി ആയുഷ് ഗവൺമെൻറ് ഓഫ് കേരള. ഡോക്ടർ K. അമ്പാടി IAS, മാനേജിംഗ് ഡയറക്ടർ കേരള സ്റ്റേറ്റ് കോസ്റ്റൽ ഏരിയ ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ് കോർപ്പറേഷൻ. ഹേമചന്ദ്രൻ IPS, MD KSRTC ഗവൺമെൻറ് ഓഫ് കേരള. Professor K. Gopalakrishnan, Chairman, Faculty, Amrita Civil Service Academy. Hello Anjali,
Hi.
Welcome to 1 in Million.
Thank you.
എവിടെയാണ് സ്ഥലം അഞ്ജലിയുടെ?
കോഴിക്കോടാണ് സ്വദേശി.
Where are you working?
Deloitte Consulting.
ഓക്കെ, അപ്പോൾ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നതിൻ്റെ കൂടെയാണ് സിവിൽ സർവീസ് പഠനം നടക്കുന്നത്. ഓക്കെ, ഇതിലോട്ട് എങ്ങനെ വന്നു? ദാറ്റ് യു നോ, ക്യാൻ യു ഡീറ്റെയിൽ അബൌട്ട് ഹൗ യു ആക്ച്വലി ചോസ് civil service as your, you know, as your, it should be your profession എന്തുകൊണ്ട് തീരുമാനിച്ചു? And maybe right from school തൊട്ട് തുടങ്ങുമായിരിക്കും അല്ലേ? Your dream maybe, it all depends on you. So tell me about your school, your family.
എൻ്റെ വീട്ടിലുള്ളത് അച്ഛനും അമ്മയും അനിയത്തിയുമാണ്. ചെറുപ്പം തൊട്ടേ ആഗ്രഹം ഉണ്ടെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ആഗ്രഹങ്ങൾ ഇവോൾവ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടേയിരുന്നു. ഒരുപാട് ആഗ്രഹങ്ങളുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. കുറച്ച് വലുതായപ്പോഴാണ് സിവിൽ സർവീസ് വേണം, ഒരു ലോങ് ടേമിൽ നമുക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും തിരിച്ചു കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്നൊരു ജോബ് വേണം എന്ന് ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ജോലിയുടെ കൂടെ പ്രിപ്പയർ ചെയ്ത് തുടങ്ങി. ഇപ്പോൾ ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ട്. സോ ലെറ്റ്സ് സീ വാട്ട് ഹാപ്പൻസ്.
അപ്പോൾ ഫാമിലിയിൽ എന്തെങ്കിലും IAS ബന്ധമുണ്ടോ? എനിബഡി?
ഇല്ല ഇല്ല.
ഗവൺമെൻറ് സർവൻസ്?
അച്ഛൻ ഗവൺമെൻറ് സർവൻ്റ് ആണ്.
ഓക്കെ, അപ്പോൾ അവിടുന്ന് മേ ബി ഒരു ഇനിഷ്യേറ്റീവ് ഉണ്ടായി കാണും.
മേ ബി.
Okay, so this is your first attempt in interview?
This is my third attempt in prelims, first attempt in mains, first interview.
First interview. അപ്പോൾ all the very best. ഇപ്പോൾ മോക്ക് ഇൻ്റർവ്യൂവിന് കയറാൻ പോവാണ്. I'll see you after your interview. So all the very best and do well.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Namaskar. Please take your seat.
Thank you, sir.
Will you please briefly introduce yourself?
Sure, sir. So I am Anjali. I hail from Calicut and I am working at Deloitte Consulting as a design consultant. My parents and my sister are my motivation to be here, and my support system consists of my sense of curiosity and my sense of purpose, which is the reasons for why I am pursuing civil service.
Oh, but you are a student of technology.
Yes, sir.
And you have offered English literature.
Yes, sir.
Why is it so?
Sir, I pursued what I am most passionate about. Reading has been my second home since very young, so choosing English literature was a natural choice.
Mm-hmm. So that's why you have chosen English literature. Are you aware about the geography of Kerala?
Yes, sir.
Can you briefly, to a lay person who is from outside and doesn't know much about Kerala,
Sure, sir.
how will you explain?
So Kerala is a streak of land that lies between the Arabian Sea and the Western Ghats. It's a very small strip of land with vast biodiversity, which means that as we go to the Western Ghats, we see cold areas, but as we move to the coastal plains, we see coastal plains, coconut palms and all that. We also have lush paddy fields and also arecanut and cultivations that are basically based on cash crops.
What is the main source of economy of Kerala?
So the largest source is the one that is coming from Gulf areas as remittances, but largely it's a service-oriented economy. Our industry is not very strong, but our agriculture is growing.
It's growing. Okay.
You are an endurance runner and also a vocalist.
Yes, sir.
What is common between these and what is the difference between the two?
So what's common between running and reading is both gives me perseverance.
No, not reading, vocalist. You said you are in a music band also.
Yeah, yes, sir, sorry. Between both singing and running, what I find common is the fact that when I'm doing whatever activity I'm doing, I can be only in the moment, which gives me the power to focus on the moment and on the activity, which is basically mindfulness. But what is very diverse about singing and running is that running builds mental tenacity, but singing builds mental softness. So it gives me both aspects of my personality better honing.
So this music band you are member of in Bangalore,
Yes,
who
sir.
does the lyrics for you? You do it yourself or
So we pick movie songs largely.
movie songs and deliver it? How do you manage? How do you practice and perform? What we are curious to know about what goes into being a member of a music band, and
Sir,
how do you do
we
it?
are 6 people. We have a guitarist, a lead guitarist and a bass guitarist. We have one person playing the piano. We have 2 vocalists, one female and one male. We also have chorus. So usually we catch up after work, especially during the night, and practice songs that people are demanding to perform for us, perform on major platforms. So our music is our passion for most of us. So that is also one way of joining together to basically form the spirit of the nation, because all of us are from different states. So when we go for the music band, what I most feel is a sense of universality that music carries. It brings people from different parts together to sing together and to basically enjoy. So I think that's what's my takeaway
That's
from it.
nice. What about the half marathon? What was the distance you covered to do the half marathon?
So 21.1 kilometers.
21. So what is a full marathon? Is there a, I'm asking, I'm not aware. Is there a
Yes.
full marathon? What is
There
the
is a
distance?
full marathon.
What is
It
the,
is 42.2 kilometers.
how did this 42 point something come in marathon?
So, sir, it's a story from Greek era, which is Philippides who chose to run from the Arabian battlefield, the battlefield with the Arabs, to back to Athens. So this distance was 42 kilometers, and it took him around a week to run it. So this is the story behind the marathon. But it is also said that as he came running back, and in his last moment, he said that we won, and he fell dying. So that is the story behind the
Just to
formation of
commemorate
marathon.
that distance, that possibly you put this 42 point and not a round figure. No, marathon chose that particular distance instead of a round figure like 40 or or whatever, 50 or whatsoever. Right. Completely different topic. How do you view the independence of judiciary in India with respect to the recent developments in the Supreme Court? Do you need changes there, governance of the justice system? What is your view?
Sir, historically, as a democracy, our Supreme Court and our judicial system has evolved to be one of the strongest ones of the nation. But having said that, the era of political appointments, to the amount of independence it has in terms of forming the collegium, appointments and also the impeachments, has taken the Supreme Court to a very strong point. But at this point, I think that the amount of independence it has is making the citizens a little distant from the amount of trust and transparency it has in terms of appointments.
What is the role of the government in appointing a Supreme Court judge as on today?
Sir, as on today, the government has no role apart from the fact that the president is the one who appoints him in the end, but it is largely chosen by the collegium of the Supreme Court justices.
But there are instances where the government takes a different view. It has happened several times that the collegium's recommendation is sent back by the president.
Yes, sir. Sir, I don't know a lot about that.
You
I'm
don't know
sorry.
much about it. But the president continues to appoint, but the aid and advice is essentially only that of the collegium.
Yes, sir.
Right. What are the weaknesses if the collegium continues to be the last word in appointing judges to high courts and Supreme Courts? Do you see any dangers there?
Is this practice being followed anywhere else in the world?
Sir, I don't know, sir.
Please
But,
answer.
yeah.
Sir, if I may answer your question. So I think that like any public authority, Supreme Court should also earn its trust and not demand it, which means that the collegium system that it presently has to be more inclusive in terms of making the meaning of democracy more true. So this closed system, which basically refuses the right to information for public citizens, is not the right way to go.
You think it may develop deficiencies and lack of transparency, which needs to be rectified?
Yes, sir, but I think that it's a very efficient institution, but transparency can be improved.
Right. You may have a service of many decades in your service of your choice if you are selected. What are the three main changes you would like to see during your working with government?
So my first priority is the foreign service. So if I may say like this, the largest problems in the world that our generation faces are not things that countries are facing alone. It is something that many nations are facing together. If I may list it out, it's climate change, like poverty, inequality. So all these things are global problems for which I think there should be global solutions. So my interest would be to work for India's national interest in international platforms to put this forward.
Not forget about your working in the international spectrum. What are the main things you would like India to change or change to happen in India? What are the 3 key things you would like India to undergo? Let's call it transformation in the next 30 years.
Okay, sir.
You can work for it abroad, no harm. Any of these selected people will have a hand in doing it. So, what are the key things which India needs to do?
So the first problem that India faces on the larger scale is the jobless growth that we have. So the last year's economic survey spoke about the need for 18 million jobs in 2018 alone if we need to cater to the amount of growing population and also serve them with jobs. So the first problem that I would tackle would be both employment and employability of young people. The second problem that I would like to address is with our education system. So as much as we say that India creates large number of intellectuals and India does send a lot of intelligentsia into the world, our education system is not holistic as of now. So one way to go forward will be to change the way fundamental education, primary education is universalized. Also, I would also like to blend the wedge between private education system and the government schools. So this difference in quality has to be mended if equality has to be brought in. The third area that I would like to work in is women empowerment. Reason being, the amount of patriarchy that we are subjected to since very young, as much as we grow up and we go into professional spheres, but this does not change the fact that women are seen as weaker and vulnerable in so many areas. So I think the change has to come both from our families and from our professional spheres in terms of bringing equality to women. These would be the 3 areas.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You have
Yes, sir.
very curiously suffixed your name with bona fide.
Yes, sir.
Anjali@gmail.com. What made you do that?
Sir, the Latin translation of bona fide is in good faith. So I chose this when I was in 7th standard to reflect my optimism towards life in general.
That's why you took Anjali@gmail.com. You are working in Deloitte Consultants.
Yes, sir.
There has been a growing amount of consultancy firms and consultancy works in the world after this liberalization that happened in India.
Yes, sir.
So what exactly these consultants doing? Are they experts in content or they're just experts in packaging?
Sir, I would say both. Reason being, there are certain areas where, for example, marketing or operations. So these are areas where you need expertise in serving a solution. So the job of a consultant is always to form a solution based on the problem that they're given. For example, I have worked with problems from different industries. No problem has been similar to one another. So to say that I have an expertise in some particular thing would be to create a niche for myself, which is a very negative thing as a consultant. So a consultant is also a generalist. So as much as we do the marketing of the solution, we also create a solution that is viable only for that firm. So
But why there is so much increase in consultancy after this globalization or of this liberalization in our country?
Yes, sir. So the way I see it, business firms have so many roles in them, and at times there are times when certain roles cannot be managed by one person alone, or they need a niche advice in one particular area that needs expertise. So in that scenario, it is not viable for all business firms to have one role for each person of expertise. So that will just increase the number of employees and also the pay that is
Do you
required.
think that it is a way of corruption or it is actually some way supporting lateral payment of things to people to get things done?
Sorry, sir, I didn't get your question.
Is there any amount of corruption in these consultancy services?
I am not aware of any in my field of study, so I don't know.
We are not aware of that. Okay. Then what's your take on capital punishment?
So as we have it in India, for exceptional cases, we do award capital punishment to some victims, some criminals. But having said that, the fundamental right to take away life should not be in any man's hand for that matter. The only reason why I take this stand is because on retrospect, there are many reasons for a person to become a criminal. It is not necessarily a criminal mind. It could be situations. It could be the way they are brought up. It could be
Suppose if I am
perhaps.
saying
Yes,
a person has very brutally raped, just like in Nirbhaya case in Delhi, don't you think that capital punishment should be there as a deterrent?
Sir,
to
I
prevent
think-
such things from happening in future?
Sir, I think that capital punishment will be a deterrent, but we are setting a wrong example in terms of humanitarian values. So there should be worse punishments that should be formulated instead of capital punishment. For example, lifetime being in prison or having to do social work entire life. So I
Or
think that would be
stoning someone, or
Sorry?
publicly lashing or stoning, just like in Arabian countries.
I think, sir, that works against the fundamental values that India is built on as a democracy. So our job is not to protect just people who are good.
So
Because
what
good
sort of reformation you are thinking as a civil servant that should bring in our justice delivery?
So in terms of our justice delivery, if I may say, we need to decrease the amount of time that we are taking between a case being filed and the verdict being
No,
arrived.
that is there. What I am
Yeah.
asking about the punishment aspect.
So I think that the punishments can be more humanistic, but having said that, extreme violence and extreme crimes need to be punished at a larger extent. For example, we have only 15 years of jail service currently as a maximum term, but that needs to be increased to lifetime and lifetime of social
But
service.
lifetime is always lifetime. People actually, after that, it is being condoned, isn't it?
Sorry,
So
sir?
what you are feeling is that rather than having capital punishment, you should have more increase in the number of years a person spends
Yes,
in jail.
sir. Yes, sir.
Any other sort of improvement you can suggest?
I cannot think of any.
What is your idea on legalizing prostitution in our country?
Sir, prostitution as we have it is moreover a matter of consent when it comes to whether it is by the choice of the woman that they are doing it versus whether they are pushed to do it because of circumstances. So I think that if an option is given for any woman to have some other job that is more, say, dignified or of human dignity, somebody might choose it. So in that scenario, I don't think it is right for us to agree with the idea that prostitution can be legalized. But having said that, if a person were to consensually involve in any act, that should not be criminalized either. So that would be an infringement on the right to
That is a question
privacy.
of consent, of having
Yes, sir.
mutual consensual sort of relation.
Yes, sir.
But what I am asking about is the aspects in which if you legalize prostitution, how can it prevent exploitation?
Sir, if we do legalize prostitution, that is, we would be able to bring in employee benefits for women in terms of retirement or in terms of education of their children, if possible. But having said that, it works against the dignity of a woman to be pushed into prostitution without any of these benefits. So if a person were to choose voluntarily that prostitution be
In
my
countries
profession.
like Germany, they have options to choose that profession.
Yes,
That
sir.
is a profession with dignity.
Yes, sir. So I think it's a very personal opinion, but for a woman, they should be given an option to choose whatever the job they want to do. If that be prostitution, let it be prostitution, but it should be done with a little more dignity than it is now.
So you now favor legalization of prostitution or not?
Legalization of prostitution can be done, but in a very restricted sense,
Which means?
which means only if the woman is allowed dignity and equality in terms of any other labor, that is employee benefits, monthly salary. So some system should come in where we should be able to improve on the flaws.
Do you
that
favor entry of women in Shabarimala?
Sir, this is a very controversial issue. So, at one end of it, we have a God who does not want to see women because it infringes upon his right to being a brahmachari. So, on the other side, we have women who say that equality of women is their primary motive. So, having both sides of it, I think that Shabarimala is a national example. Reason being, there are people from Tamil Nadu, Haryana and all kinds of places from India who are coming into our state to visit this temple. So, setting an example where we are refusing entry to women for this particular temple would be setting a national example of refusing women entry. So, in that way,
Now, what's the constitutional position on this?
sir, the constitution according to Article 25 does not interfere with religious affairs or right of religion.
But is there any provision in the constitution that prevents restriction of women from between a particular age group in entering anywhere in the
No,
country?
sir, we don't
Freedom
have
of movement?
We don't have it in the
So
constitution.
how can you legally do it? Is
Sir,
it legal?
I do not think it should be done legally. I think that women should be given entry to Shabarimala. But perhaps an idea of restricted entry is possible
Why?
if they do not want to enter the sanctum sanctorum of the temple.
Why?
Because that works against harming the belief system of a lot of people.
And don't you think that these belief systems have evolved over a period of time? Few years back, 50, 60 years back, even entry of some certain sections of society into the temple was prevent it.
Yes, sir.
So systems needs to evolve.
Yes,
so
sir,
what is
but,
sanctified about such customs and beliefs?
Sir, I don't believe that this is a sanctified custom. Reason being, this is the only temple in which women are not allowed entry.
No, there
in
was a
Kerala.
lot of struggle has happened in Shanishwar temple in
In Kerala, I saw.
yeah.
Yeah. In Kerala, this is the only example where we don't allow women entry. So that being an isolated example which functions only based on the belief system of people, I do not think we need to go and take away that right to believe in a particular legend if they may.
I find that you are into endurance running.
Yes, sir.
It is in that the world's finest endurance runners, most of them are from some of the African countries,
Yes, sir.
known for poverty.
Yes, sir.
So, is there any correlation between poverty and endurance?
Sir, I think the correlation is between the ability to run long distances comes from something called persistence hunting. So, certain areas in the world have tribes and people who have pursued persistence hunting, which is basically running until the animal falls down, which is a very long distance. So, for a bunch of race who might have done that for centuries, I think that Africa is a very tenable area to have that history. So, in that way, there is a correlation between persistence hunting, Africans and endurance running, but I don't think there is a relation with poverty, sir.
Is this your commonsensical analysis, or have you done any studies,
Sir,
or
I
have you
have
come
done.
across any material on
Sir,
that?
I came across a book Born to Run about Tarahumara tribes in Mexico. So, that speaks about the story of persistence hunting and how human beings have as a body evolved to doing endurance running.
Then why is it that that phenomenon happening in India? We also have quite a lot of tribals and neglected people who are into this sort of situation.
Yes, sir. But the geography of India and Africa is very different in a lot of ways. So, in Africa, we have long stretches of deserts where people have to pursue despite the heat and the sand and adverse conditions to run. So, for a climate like India, where we don't have to run very long stretches of land, it is easier to find animals even after persistence hunting. So, Africans and Mexicans tend to be the largest number of population who is into endurance running currently.
Any leading Mexicans who have won Olympics in medal in endurance running?
Sorry, sir?
Can you name some Mexicans who have done exceedingly well, say in Olympics or anywhere like that?
No, sir, but I know a few people who run, as in not for Olympics and all, but for normal marathons, they do run long distances.
Okay, we will leave that aside.
Sure.
One of your hobbies is reading.
Yes.
You read a lot of books, you are into literature. You read fiction and non-fiction, or?
Sir, I read both.
Can you name some of your favorite authors?
Okay. Sir, I am reading Haruki Murakami right now in terms of fiction. I am halfway through Choices by Shiv Shankar Menon in non-fiction.
That is the IFS officer.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you name some of the finest IFS officers from Kerala?
Sir, Nirupama Rao, K.R. Narayanan, T.P. Srinivasan. Sir, I can't think of any more.
Now, some of the finest books on foreign service, life in foreign service is written by officers from Kerala. You have heard of KPS Menon?
Yes, sir. Yes.
You have read this book?
I have not read it.
Read this book, okay. Now, what is it that attracts you to foreign service, say in preference to the IAS?
So, sir, having worked in a consultancy field, I came across people from different parts of the world. So, one thing that I found that is very common to everybody is the idea of human suffering, how human suffering is so humanistic and so universal. So, when it comes to countries coming together for problems that they are facing together, I think that Indian interests need to be guarded and also put forward in a lot of platforms. Especially in the United Nations, India do not have a position in the Security Council. Similarly, in IMF and World Bank, we don't have equivalent voting share as much as so many other Western countries have. So, as a growing economy, I think that India can set a larger example and a better example in terms of so many things. So, I would like to stand on behalf of our country.
But that you can do much more effectively by being a leader in the corporate field. For example, comparatively, many businessmen abroad, for example, you take West Asia or any country or even US, the business people, corporate people, they play much more important role comparatively than the IFS officers. So, your objective can be met by continuing in the corporate field.
Sir, I still believe that government is the largest agency for people. Having worked in a corporate environment, I think that the primary motive for many corporates is profit. And the second one would be philanthropic concerns if there is. Now, there are only very few corporate bodies in the world that contributes at least 5% of their profit to nation building activities or solutions of such problems that we have in the world. But in terms of government, I think, sir, when we build a solution on behalf of government, I think it benefits far more number of people than any corporate possibly can do.
You used an expression with respect to philanthropy, if it is there.
Yes, sir.
It's a doubtful thing.
So, in India, we have corporate service responsibility, but there are nations where such a legal tender is not there, which means that there are corporates who have an option to not function even without philanthropic contributions.
What is, in your experience, what is wrong with the corporate sector? Because a question was asked, often these consulting firms are used as a via medium for corrupt practices. You said, I have not come across. It is not your personal experience, your personal experience is limited, but through reading, through interaction, you have a wider knowledge. I would like to know your perspective based on that.
Okay. Sir, consulting firms are easy targets in terms of using them as shell companies or mirrors in covering up basic transactions. So, even if a shell company is called a consultancy, there is nobody who can come in and say you are not a consultancy, because the role of consultancy can be so diverse and so intangible that they can be easily made as targets for covering up things that we otherwise would not know. So, in that way, I think that consultancy firm can decrease the transparency in any transaction.
Okay, we will leave it at that there. Have you read any of the books written by Shashi Tharoor?
Sir, I have read Pax Indica, but that was a few years ago.
Recently, there was a public release of a book by him titled Why I Am a Hindu. You have come across that?
I have not read it, sir, sorry.
You have not read it, but you have heard of that.
I have heard of it.
Often a distinction is made between Hinduism and Hindutva. Can you explain that?
Sir, my understanding is relatively limited, but may I continue?
Yeah, you can continue.
Sir, Hinduism is a religion that has been ancient and has been practiced in the Indian subcontinent and across the world. But Hindutva is a propaganda that is based on certain ideals of Hinduism, but is not as perhaps secular as it is as compared to the other propagandas that we have.
So, what is the fundamental difference?
Sir, I think that Hindutva propaganda moves away from our secular ideals.
Now, what is the concept of secularism as it is understood in India?
Sir, secularism gives equal importance to all religions and does not favor a particular religion as such. Now, India has a very different model of secularism from so many other nations. While they have a negative idea of secularism, which is basically not offering any religion support, India has a propaganda where we support all religions equally, which is our idea of positive secularism.
How is it different from the Western model?
For example, sir, in France, they do refuse hijabs to be worn by women. They were refusing it for some time. But in India, we do not have any restrictions based on religion. So, I think that in India, we believe that religion is anybody's fundamental right, any person's fundamental right. But having said that, we also support Hajj yatras and also yatra to Manasarovar for Hindu believers. So, in that sense, we have an equal support given to people from all religions.
In the preamble to the constitution, this word secularism, was it there originally or?
Sir, I am not very sure, but I think it was not originally there and was added in the 44th Amendment, if I am not wrong.
Okay, thank you.
You know, we live in a democracy.
Yes, sir.
And democracy survives on opposition also, because without opposition there is no strong democracy. But then we have a certain kind of politics in the country which actually considers politics to be above national, the supremacy of the nation or the welfare of the nation. Now, do you think politics should be below the nation, or should it be a kind of an ideology that you should stick to, come what may, to the nation?
Sir, I think that the importance of politics in a nation is dictated by its people, and hence if the country may choose, if the people in a country may choose so that politics has to play above the nation in terms of national interest or the interest of its people, I think that politics can take a precedence. But in a scenario where politics and the fight between parties is becoming so that the proceedings in the parliament or the proceedings of a democracy and a progress is infringed upon, I think that nation should take a precedent. And in those areas, we see that other bodies do come in and make an interference, like the Supreme Court.
Yeah, in politics, resistance is an important term. Okay, but now the courts have declared or decreed that we cannot have bandh in the state.
Yes, sir.
And we conduct hartals in the guise of a bandh. Now, can you think of any other method of resistance that could substitute for a hartal? We want to oppose something, we want to resist something as a democratic measure, but we have only one weapon with us, and that is the hartal. Can you think of a substitute for it?
Sir, I can think of a digital substitute for it, because when people have a protest in front of an office, there is only a certain number of people who get to know about the issue and discuss about the issue. But using digital platforms to used in terms of a protest, whether it be Twitter or it be Facebook, the number of people who discuss the issue and actually take a step on it can be far larger. So I think that in the present era, the digital platforms can be a suitable substitute for peaceful protests.
Okay, when you enter into an Indian Foreign Service, what would be the kind of presentation about India that you would make as a standard presentation? What would be the elements in it?
So the first one would be how well we have thrived with so much diversity as a democracy. The second idea would be how these diversity, how people come together to bring different things on the table, and how we have built ourselves as a nation from say 55% poverty to 26% poverty, the amount of the metrics that we have to show our development. The third would be the progress of our economy. The fourth would be the progress of our service sector and the export of our service sector, if I may say. Another one would be the strength of the growing population, that is the demographic dividend that we have, which is far more than any other nation, and we are cornering China very soon. So, fifth would be portraying India as an investment destination, because in a lot of ways we do thrive on GDP and we do want it more to kind of complete the system that we have and also provide more jobs. Another idea would be our movement in terms of sustainable energy and renewable energy, because in those particular sectors we have a special focus, because it is the time and need of our nation.
Do you think that since you said demographic dividend,
yes, sir,
that increasing the population should be a goal of the country?
Sir, in the short run I think it benefits us, but in the long run I would say no.
In the present state, what do you think?
Sir, I think in the present state it would benefit us for say 50 or 60 years, but we would have to take efficient family planning measures to control the population.
So, the present rate of growth should continue for some time?
Perhaps a decade, sir.
For a decade.
But definitely not more than that.
Okay. Are you aware of the occupational hazards that you might face once you enter the services?
Sir, if I may speak from my first preference, it will need me to travel a lot, expose myself to a lot of cultures. There are also dangers of traveling alone, perhaps as a woman, but I think that they are dangers that we face in any profession. So, I am completely willing to face all of it.
No, what if you come under a minister who is not well educated?
Sorry, sir?
What if you come under a minister who is not well educated, who is not bothered about the kind of good work that you do? Then how would you tackle that situation?
Sir, I would have to use a selective passive diplomacy, because it is the art of communicating. Now, communication is a two-way process. So, depending on who you are, can only I choose to communicate. So, if it is an uneducated minister, I will choose to communicate in a way that does not leave my dignity off, but will make myself easily understandable to the other person.
Do you think there is anything called the truth?
Sir, I think that everybody has their own versions of personal truth, but there is also the public perception of truth. Now, while
What's
I
the
say,
difference between truth and a fact?
sir, a fact is something that cannot be refuted, which has evidence, but a truth can be a version of a fact.
Okay.
I'm not very sure.
So, one more question on language and literature.
Yes, sir.
Now, what is the difference between modernism and postmodernism?
Sir, modernism was an era of avant-garde movements, which was continuous experimentation, and writers and authors were allowed to try different fields and different styles of writing, different narratives. So, this takes the control of the book and literature to the hands of the author. But postmodernism takes
Now,
away.
can you give me a few practitioners, names of a few practitioners of modernism?
Sure, sir. Sir, abstract drama.
No,
absurd drama.
practitioners, writers.
Samuel Beckett, for example.
Beckett is a dramatist.
He's a dramatist.
Then a poet.
Sir, I'm trying to recollect the name.
Okay, you know Eliot.
Yes, sir, Eliot.
Okay. Then what about postmodernism?
So, postmodernism takes the control away from the author and places it on the reader. So, it is up to the reader to interpret whatever book they want to interpret in terms of their truth, and it also breaks it down into different parts. As in postmodernism, we have structuralism. We have so many other movements that allows the reader to interpret the book in the way they want to, and makes the book an absolute entity in terms of itself and distances it from the author.
Your interview is over.
Thank you, sir.
Please wait outside for a while. We will call you back.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Hi Anjali, welcome back.
Hi,
How
thank
did your interview go?
It was okay. It was okay.
എന്തൊക്കെ questions ആ ചോദിച്ചത്?
കറണ്ട് ഇഷ്യൂസിനെ കുറിച്ചുള്ള ഒപ്പീനിയൻസ് ആണ് ലാർജ്ലി ചോദിച്ചത്. പിന്നെ എൻ്റെ പ്രൊഫൈലിൽ നിന്നുള്ള ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസും കുറേ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു.
Okay, and situation based questions
വാസ് വെരി ലെസ്.
was very less. Opinion based ആയിരുന്നു കൂടുതൽ അല്ലേ? Okay, so overall ഈ interview കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് how do you feel?
I feel that I should work on some areas, but certain areas are good.
Okay, first mock interview ആയിരുന്നു ആ first interview ആണോ?
Second mock interview ആയിരുന്നു.
Second mock, but it's your first attempt അല്ലേ?
It's my first interview.
Interview attempt.
But my third attempt.
Okay, good. So ഒരു 1 to 10 scale, how do you rate yourself?
Myself, I would say 6.
Okay. Everybody is being, diplomatic. 6 എന്നൊരു സ്കോർ ആയിരുന്നു. അപ്പോൾ അഞ്ജലിക്ക് തന്നെ തോന്നുന്നുണ്ടായിരിക്കുമല്ലോ ഒരു എനിക്ക് ഈ ഏരിയ വീക്കായിട്ട് തോന്നി, ഇതായിരുന്നു എൻ്റെ പോസിറ്റീവ്. സോ വാട്ട് ഡു യു തിങ്ക് ഇസ് യുവർ പോസിറ്റീവ്?
Positive, I think it's probably communication, and on certain aspects, say running, hobbiesiലൊക്കെ ഞാൻ വായിച്ചിരുന്നു, അതുകൊണ്ട് അത് പറയാൻ പറ്റി. പക്ഷേ ചില ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ആസ് ഇൻ റിലേറ്റഡ് ടു ദ ജോബ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഏരിയാസിൽ എനിക്ക് കുറച്ചുകൂടെ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ തോന്നുന്നു.
ഓക്കെ, കുറച്ചുകൂടെ റീഡിങ് ആൻഡ് ബിക്കമിങ് അവെയർ ഓഫ് വാട്ട് എവർ ഇസ് ദ ജനറൽ ടോപ്പിക്സ്. ഓക്കെ, ഗുഡ്. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്കിനി പാനലിൻ്റെ റിവ്യൂ അറിയാനുണ്ട്. സോ വിൽ സ്പീക്ക് ടു ദ പാനൽ ആൻഡ് ദെൻ ഐ വിൽ സ്പീക്ക് ടു യു. ഓക്കെ.
Anjali, you are doing extremely well.
Thank you.
And in the actual interview also you will do very well.
Thank you.
Your articulation is excellent.
Thank you.
And you have a general awareness of most of the issues. So whatever I add to that is by way of suggestion.
Yes.
That is being a very educated, well informed person, you are expected to form some opinions on critical issues. Sometimes the board will push for that. It is not the right or wrong answer, but the way you reason it out with the facts and figures, but on some issues you have to take a stand on.
Yes.
You can't appear to be evading that sort of a thing, and you need not be pro establishment or any such thing, because you have not joined the service or anything. So, you do not have to be appearing defending any official view or any such thing, but formation of opinion as expected of a thinking person, a responsible citizen, I think that is very, very important. Like one area where I felt was the question on legalizing prostitution. You being a woman, a basic question of dignity is involved. Violation of dignity, I think it's hard to justify under whatever circumstances. You were explaining and gradually you fell into that. In those circumstances it is okay as a profession, you can replay and see, because any act which involves violation of dignity of a human being, I think by any cover justifying it, that not that the chance of such a thing coming is not there, but this is something which you have to keep in mind. And I think probably if you can, with your capacity for articulation, you can talk a little slower here and there and try to impress. That will have greater impact, particularly when you are making some substantive points, that will have greater impact.
Yes.
And try not to give an answer which you are not sure about it certainly. Like he asked about postmodernism, then you said component of it is structuralism. That I do not think is exactly the correct position. You need not know everything, it is not a test of knowledge or anything, but giving a wrong answer in this sort of manner, that can be counterproductive. Otherwise, these are by way of suggestions only, you will do. And with regard to corporate, this their plus and minus, these are well known. You need not say that you are trying to evade telling I am not aware of any such thing. So it's
Sir,
not.
I thought that is a personal question.
That is where personal questions from biodata based on your personal experience has to be seen in that perspective, but otherwise it has to be seen based on your broad understanding of the issues. That is all. Otherwise, you are doing extremely well. You will do well here also.
But much nothing to add. Just take care of that you do not say more than necessary, because you have articulation that you can control to the point, and be a little more analytical. Otherwise, you should be doing pretty well.
The role of a civil servant, if you are working in the secretariat giving advice to ministers, is to analyze issues. And analysis means all the aspects of an issue have to be understood by you and recorded logically in a manner that the reader understands what they are. And therefore, when you are expressing an opinion, it should be based on a proper analysis of all the issues involved. So, when you answer, your answer must reflect that the opinion that you are expressing is based on, number one, a proper understanding of the issue, and on the consideration of pros and cons. So, that you have to keep in mind, otherwise you are an excellent candidate. We hope that you will be there in the service which you want. Best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, all the best.
Anjali, welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
എന്തായിരുന്നു റിവ്യൂ? What did they say?
മിക്സ്ഡ് ഒപ്പീനിയൻ ആയിരുന്നു. ഒരുപാട് സ്ട്രോങ് പോയിന്റ്സ് അവർ പറഞ്ഞു, പക്ഷെ ചില ഏരിയയിൽ ഒരു സ്ട്രോങ് സ്റ്റാൻഡ് എടുക്കണം എന്ന് അവർ പറഞ്ഞു.
ഓക്കെ, വേറെ എന്തൊക്കെ ഇംപ്രൂവ്മെന്റ് ടിപ്സ് തന്നു?
പിന്നെ ലിറ്ററേച്ചറിലുള്ള ചില ഏരിയാസ് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യാനുണ്ട്. അപ്പം അവരുടെ ഫീഡ്ബാക്ക് വളരെ നല്ലതായിരുന്നു.
So they are kind of happy with your whatever output you have given?
Yeah, reasonably happy, I would say.
Okay, fine. And where എന്തൊക്കെ like questions ചോദിച്ചത് വെച്ചിട്ട് what did they ask you to, what did they say your positive is and what did they say that your weakness is?
They said that on certain things, for example hobbies and all, I was able to give definite answers because I had read up on them.
Okay.
But certain things like brushing up literature, പിന്നെ ചില current issuesലൊക്കെ ഞാനൊരു സ്ട്രോങ് ഒപ്പീനിയൻ എടുത്തില്ല. അപ്പം എടുക്കണമായിരുന്നു എന്ന് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു.
Okay, ഒരു സ്റ്റാൻഡ് എടുക്കണമായിരുന്നു അല്ലേ, instead of like wavering around.
Diplomatic.
Right. Okay, fine. അപ്പോൾ how do you feel after hearing their review? എന്ത് തോന്നുന്നു?
I feel good. I think that there are so
കുറച്ചുകൂടി
many
ഒരു കോൺഫിഡൻസ് വന്നിട്ടുണ്ടോ?
I'm fine.
ഇവർ പറഞ്ഞ പോയിന്റ്സ് ഒക്കെ വെച്ചിട്ട് you prepare really well and I hope you do very well for your interview. All the very best.
Thank you so much.
I have with me Shri Vinay Shankar IAS, a very senior IAS officer from Delhi. I wholeheartedly welcome you to the show, sir.
Namaskar.
How are you feeling?
I am feeling very nice. It's so nice to be in Trivandrum.
Definitely.
And the climate here is very good. Delhi was very cool,
Okay.
rather
So it's a
cold,
change.
and this place is very pleasant, very nice.
Right.
People here are, I mean, nice. I have known them.
So you've got a lot of experience. You've seen a lot of IAS aspirants in Delhi, in and around Delhi. So you've seen the candidates who've come here also to take the interview. So what is the difference that you find in the candidates that you've seen in Delhi as well as from Kerala?
There are many commonalities.
Okay.
And there are some differences also. The commonalities are that, as in Delhi, a large percentage of candidates have engineering degree
Okay.
with them. And some of them are doing good jobs, well-paid jobs, and still they would like to join the civil service. And some of them are rather old in the sense that they are about 30ish, 32, 33 also.
Okay.
While in our time, the maximum age was 24.
Okay.
So one who had exceeded 24 could not appear for the exams, except for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe candidates. So relatively in our time, they were young.
Young crowd.
Nowadays, the candidates are older, but this is common to both Delhi as well as
Kerala.
Kerala as well. I also found one very interesting thing, that Malayalam language was very popular as an optional subject.
Okay.
And it's good because that means they read the literature and know about their own state.
Right.
Delhi that way is cosmopolitan. There is no one state from which people come. There is from all over India.
All over India.
You find in Delhi people from Kerala as well as Bengal as well as UP, Haryana and Maharashtra. So it represents the entire country. So is the sample of candidates who are interviewed by us.
Yeah. So
Mock interviews.
have you observed any, that the candidates from Kerala lack anything?
No, I don't think they lack in anything.
So, and nowadays you see a trend of people flooding to Delhi to take the, coaching or training. And there are a lot of institutions that are coming up in Kerala as well for the training. Do you think these institutions really help the candidates, or self-preparation is what you recommend?
When I am prepared, I did not join any, but that is way back in 1962 I am talking of. But nowadays the competition is very, very stiff. And since the age relaxation is there, so people get more time to prepare. And so perhaps it needs guidance because the competition is stiff. And the institutions which are coaching, they have specialized in that.
Okay.
So I think it would be of help, because the person without any guidance and coaching, how will he prepare?
The competition is also high.
Competition is very, very stiff.
Very, very high.
Very stiff.
Yeah.
So it is not easy to get in. And a difference of say 10 marks can make a
huge
substantial difference between success and failure.
Right. Anyways, thank you so much, sir, for spending this time with us. Really appreciate it. And every word that come out of your mouth makes a lot of difference to our candidates, to our viewers too. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
1 in Million ഇന്നത്തെ എപ്പിസോഡ് ഇവിടെ അവസാനിക്കുകയാണ്. വീണ്ടും കാണുന്നത് വരേക്കും നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം.